They call it soft fascination. And it's the reason a 10-minute walk in the park can undo hours of mental stress. Right here, your exhausted brain can finally rest while staying gently engaged. I know you're stressed. I know you're tired. Conventional city living, it does that to all of us. I'm going to show you exactly how to unlock peace. You can start this weekend. You're constantly in mental overdrive. Emails, deadlines, traffic, noise, TV shows. Your mental focus muscle is constantly exhausted. You've tried meditation apps and your mind keeps racing, mindfulness and living in the now, and you can't seem to get the hang of it. But there's a reason why nature feels so different. And science thinks it finally knows why. Let me try to explain it. There was a scientific paper called Attention Restoration Theory. It was written by two behavioral scientists, a couple, named Rachel and Stephen Kaplan. And they think that they discovered that nature has certain specific healing capabilities for our brains. So they have a term called soft fascination, and it's opposed to hard fascination. So it might be easy to explain hard fascination first, which is when you're thinking about a convoluted plot on a TV show, or you're working on a tough problem at work, or you're having an extended conversation with multiple people. Hard fascination means you are fascinated or concentrating on something specific that is convoluted, complicated, and your brain has to be problem solving and processing what your reactions are going to be and what your responses are going to be. That's hard fascination. So the Kaplans called it soft fascination, where you're in a state where you are paying attention to something, but it's not taking up any problem solving or processing part of your mind. It's relaxing to pay attention to something. Picture a stream running over some rocks. It catches your attention, you look at it, but you don't have to process it or problem solve. Or think about staring into a campfire. It's fascinating, it has your attention, but you're not working through some convoluted reaction that you have to give it. And you don't have to gauge its response to you. And when you direct your attention at something for an extended period of time that requires a lot of mental processing and chews up a lot of brain power to work on your response to it or solve a problem, you start to get something called directed attention fatigue. Your brain starts to wear out. You get tired. That's why when you're at work, whether you work in an office or work from home or work on a factory line or work in some physical capacity, perhaps you're a mechanic, it's encouraged for you to, every couple of hours, just walk away from your workspace for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just decouple your brain from that directed attention, and it starts recharging you from the fatigue. But it turns out that spending time in green spaces in nature and having a session of soft focus, even 10 or 15 minutes, can provide you with a week's worth of refreshing and recharging. So when you do something called this effortless attention, you begin to get restored and recharged. Nature has an abundance of fascinating objects. Clouds in the sky, leaves rustling in the breeze. They gain our attention, but they don't chew up our brain on convoluted, fatiguing mental activity the way that directed attention does. You know, I used to go to parks to make a video because I knew I liked the environment of being in a park, and I'd get to the park and I'd try to figure out, what am I going to make a video about? And I'd try to think of something interesting to make the videos, not realizing that going to the parks and recharging my brain was something that I could share with people and talk to people about and teach folks how to recharge their brains the way that I was doing. Instead of trying to dream up interesting separate ideas, I just should be sharing my little secret trick, how to recharge your brain by going to the park and focusing on the mundane, interesting, but soft, fascinating things around me. So after you spend some time focusing on these soft fascinations, disconnected from directed attention, your mind will just naturally start to reflect on what you've been seeing or what you've been focusing on. And it sort of recharges up your brain, and it enables you to engage in a little bit more soft fascination and effortless attention. It starts to repeat this cycle where you can peacefully focus on something gentle, and then you reflect on it. It recharges up your brain, and you have more attention available to spend on effortless attention and soft fascination. You ever heard of this old saying that says, a change is as good as a rest? I think that in a lot of ways that's talking about getting out into a green space, a natural space, and it doesn't have to be some fancy lock and dam riverside escape. It can just be your local park. It can be the green space down the street from your house. Someplace that has something that's not particularly complicated to stare at and enjoy. And let your brain wander and recharge itself. And remember, you're not going there to ponder your biggest problems and think through your life's challenges. You're just going to look for something interesting to stare at. It could be a bug on a table. It could be a bird on a sidewalk. It could be the way that the leaves in the trees are blowing in the breeze. And in case you ever wondered, that's why scrolling through social media drains you, but staring at clouds relaxes and recharges you. So let's talk about practical steps for you to engage in soft fascination and start recharging your brain. As you watch clouds drift or water flowing or just trees swaying, your attention is captured, but without any mental effort. I think part of it is that nature provides this whole world that's much bigger than our problems. Stepping into a world that's bigger than our own problems, even when we don't think about it consciously, puts our problems into perspective, even without trying. We're not trying to put our world or our life into perspective. It just happens naturally when you get out into the giant world of nature. Another example, another practical example, there's an American flag on a flagpole on the other side of the river. Caught my attention and I just watched it blowing in the breeze for a minute. Easy enough. I just noticed that they've got a couple of birdhouses here up on some poles. I didn't intentionally try to focus on those. I just noticed them, and there's a bird poking his head out of one of them, so caught my attention for a sec. Now you have to pick a natural environment that fits your personality and picks your stress level. So if you're extremely stressed because of living in the city and being crammed up next to other people and living too close to retail spaces, don't pick a nature spot from which you can actually see that environment. You need to find a natural space that kind of obscures that and hides it from your perspective, I guess. And similarly, your personality is going to tell you if you're in the right space or you need to find somewhere else. Hello, mockingbird. So without trying too hard to evaluate your personality or try to evaluate the personality of a space, just trust your gut. If a place feels relaxing and interesting, stay there. And if you find your mind wandering and not thinking about anything around you, move on and find another spot. You don't have to stay at the first place you pick. Yeah, different people need different environments. So that's your homework for this weekend. I want you to get out to a park or other natural space, spend 20 minutes or so, try to engage in soft fascination. Just focus on interesting but mundane things that are happening around you. Watch the stress melt away, and then come back and leave me a comment and let me know what you noticed.